Thank you for joining me on this video today. This will be the first video of many that I hope will find you. I will be talking with college students at my university about topics that are either pertinent in the news or just interesting topics that I think should be discussed. So this is that discussion. This first week's one is obviously about the Florida mass shooting, and I hope that you guys find the topics that Lamar and I are talking about, that they are important and that we did not cross any lines. If you guys have any comments down below, please, I want to hear them. I want this to be an open discussion. If you hate what I said or hate what Lamar said or liked or disliked or anything like that, please leave a comment and share the video. I want this to be an open discussion, but other than that, I will be posting the unedited video right after this. So if you want to listen to it, it's about 45 minutes, and I hope you have a great day and enjoy the conversation. Thank you. So we are here today talking about the mass shooting that happened in Florida. I'm taking the stance that more gun control will not really solve anything, and my name is Josh Canio. I'm the one that's running this channel, and if you'd like to introduce yourself.
My name is Lamar, and I'm a student, and I'm here to talk about with Josh about the incident that just happened also.
Yeah, so in this conversation, we're just going to be having a civil discussion on our points that we think, on points that we think are pertinent to the situation. Obviously, this was a horrible situation, and I'm not advocating for any kind of gun violence, but I'm just advocating for legislation and how I don't think that more legislation for gun laws will improve situations like this in the future. And my condolences to anyone who lost anyone in this shooting. I have never gone through something like that, and I hope I never will. But, you know, whatever support system you're using, I hope it is helping. So anyway, Lamar and I are going to get into it a little bit here, and I'll let you open up as your guest.
So, I was doing my research on the school shooting, and I actually just found about it yesterday, to be honest with you. Maybe because I don't watch TV like that, but, you know, social media will tell you about it. And I kind of noticed with this school shooting, underrated factor that a lot of people don't really look at it is the bullying factor. If you look at past shootings, the Columbine shootings, the Virginia Tech shootings, you know, the Texas shooting, a lot of these has come from people who have been bullied, you know, and bullying plays a big role in how people's self-esteems are, and, you know, that says a lot too, because a lot of people, they go straight to the gun thing, but it's like, there's a bigger issue at hand, what's going on inside the school, the students, you know, the interactions and stuff. So that was one of the things I noticed. In my notes, I noticed from Adam Habanah, and this was from The Sun UK. He was like a next door neighbor to the shooter, and basically he said he described him as like a loner, somebody who, you know, smashed stuff from the neighbors, and same with Joshua Charo. And he said all he ever talked about was guns and knives and hunting and things of that nature. So I figured from these testimonies, these are like signs that, you know, something was coming. If you looked on his social media, all he posted was the guns he was going to buy and things of that nature. So it was like one of the signs, but I think bullying is something that needs to be talked about just as much as the gun laws too.
Okay, yeah, for sure. I definitely wanted to get into the aspects of bullying because I think there is a psychological factor that comes into these things because it's not, no one just wakes up randomly one day and is, unless, you know, you have that kind of cognitive dissonance, where you just wake up and you're like, I'm going to commit this heinous crime. It's usually like a slow brew, you know, and in psychology they've proven this over and over again. People over time, like, I think the best analogy, just for simplification, is like kind of learned helplessness, where it's either I'm going to commit suicide maybe, or I'm going to do an act of violence, or like I just need something to change quickly because I can't handle the situation. So I guess, did you want to talk about bullying first and then maybe the legislation afterwards? Or
probably so, because I think I probably have more to say on that.
Okay.
With this bullying thing, I think what needs to happen, teachers need to pay attention to the interaction students have with each other, just like whenever they're having their breaks or whatever. Just see how other students are interacting. I heard, I researched his math teacher, Jim Gard. He said that he didn't really have problems with Nicholas, but an email had circulated around that he was suspended days before, and it was due to like disciplinary reasons, like trouble with like classmates. So like maybe, and unfortunately, maybe for future references, when a kid comes back from suspension, they should have an immediate, meeting with them to
like a follow-up.
Yeah, exactly. Not just bring them back to school.
Right, because then you kind of alienate the student. Like in high school, everything's so tightly knit. Especially if you go to a small high school. Was this a small high school? I can't remember.
That part I do not know.
Okay, well, I mean, assuming it was even a remotely large school, I mean, a couple hundred people at least always know about a suspension. I mean, through the grapevine, anything like that. I mean, we're college students, and we still hear things from all the way across campus that none of us may personally know, but I mean, we still hear about it. So, if you hear a name drop, and especially if he's a loner and an easy target like that, people are like, "Oh, did you hear about this kid who got suspended?" And let's look on his social media, and like everything is very toxic in that nature. So, I think you and I would agree that teacher intervention needs to be a little more at the forefront instead of reactive.
And I was gonna say, ironically, one of the students they didn't say the name, but basically the student was like, well, he's definitely gonna be the one to shoot up the school, and ironically, that's what happened. So these students knew something was gonna happen,
right.
Because he kind of talked about it. It might have been jokingly, but some days you gotta take it like, hold on,
right. If you have a feeling. And that's not to say every feeling is correct, but I mean, I think maybe there should be an avenue for students to voice those kind of darker concerns about their safety. Because I'm a huge proponent of personal safety, and that's why I think, just in general, like the government shouldn't directly intervene. I think there should be, they shouldn't ban weapons because, I mean, drugs are illegal and people still do those and stuff. And I mean, yes, making more stringent gun laws may help the situation, but that only prevents a person from getting the weapon. And I think once someone has the weapon, more strict gun laws aren't going to do anything once they decide to enter the school and actually cause the act of violence that they're deciding to do. So, yeah, I think on the bullying aspect, I think we're pretty much on the same page. I think high school students and even younger need to have an avenue of some place where they can express their feelings, like whether that be with like a school counselor or just a teacher, someone who's not even has that counselor stigma to it. Because I think a lot of people, not even students, just people in general, like all psychologists and counselors and stuff like that, don't know what they're talking about. And I don't, I mean, even just person to person like this, like even if I had a problem or you had a problem, I think just being able to talk to somebody is a huge thing.
Right.
And from his Facebook page, he didn't have anyone. He found his comfort in things of violence and things like that, which I mean is kind of easy to fall into because I mean we see people with social anxiety and people with just other kind of sort of learned helplessness that I would say. They either develop eating disorders or they try and form some kind of control over something, usually an inanimate object or other people, verbally abusive, things like that, things that normal people, the status quo people would consider as abnormal behavior.
Yeah, and I was going to say, this was really surprising to me. When I was doing research, his mother had died a year ago, and I guess he was living with a family friend. And the family friend said they didn't see none of this coming whatsoever. They didn't see no signs. But I'm saying to myself, if you're a longtime family friend, you would think that, I'm pretty sure the mother had told you about, her son. And to say it just came out of nowhere, like anything remotely of this, like even if you think he wouldn't have shot the school up, it had to been some thought, like you know, he's struggling somewhere, you know, like they just like, oh, I'm just surprised. Like,
yeah, I don't know necessarily if like I definitely can't blame the secondary family, the family friends who were raising him, because I mean, in my own personal experience, I can kind of play with my parents and be like, oh yeah, everything's fine, don't worry about it, when realistically, I'm not, you know, like I had a garbage day or something like that, you know. So I think a lot of times parents or caretakers blame themselves for that, but realistically, you don't. At least my personal experience, I didn't see my parents that often because they worked like a 9-to-5 job, and then by the time they got home, you know, we had dinner, we sat down for about an hour, and that was the only face-to-face interactions we had. And you know, you can put on a face for an hour, and if that's the only context that your family is involved in your life, now I don't know how involved this family that was taking care of him was, but you know, if they weren't super involved, then you know, maybe he put on a face, and I think that's a very reasonable thing that a lot of people who would go to these kinds of acts of violence would be able to do. They're internalizing everything. I would assume they have a flat affect because you kind of have to remove the emotion out of yourself to be able to just be like, okay, I'm going to go do this. So I think that would be one thing I don't think the family could ever have known. I think maybe if they were on social media, maybe they could have had an inkling. But a lot of times, even normal behavior would be, well, I'm not going to be friends with my parents on social media. That's weird. Like, I'm not friends with my mom on social media, and I helped set her Facebook up. She's like, oh, how can we be friends? I'm like, that's not how this works.
Yeah, that's the thing. He was 19, so by that time, it's like, there's like not a need to check, you know, your kids' social media. If he was younger, then more than like, exactly. But that's it. And I was gonna say about the gun laws thing, or we can get into that. I was gonna say I kind of agree with you, and I say that because I look like the drug thing. Whenever a DUI happens, you know, we blame the driver. You know, we don't blame the car. If a bomb attack happens, we blame the bomb. We don't blame the bomb. You know, same thing we here. We shouldn't blame the gun. You know, so on that point, I definitely agree. I was looking at the difference between how Obama addressed the nation when I forgot what school shooting would happen, or
was it Sandy Hook?
I think so, and how President Trump handled it. It was strikingly
I very much agree. There's a striking difference.
I mean, he wanted to do it more private, and it's kind of like if George Bush address the survivors in private for 9/11. Like, nah, like you can't do that. When something that big happens, you gotta let the nation know, you know, that you're taking notice. You know, I mean, like the man Obama, whether you like him or not, I mean, he appeared in front of the entire nation, you know, led a song, you know, and just to try to at least uplift people, you know, if possibly can. President Trump, he just met with the hospital staff, you know, the police department. They wasn't the one that, you know,
survived or went through it.
And they said he did meet a couple survivors, like personally, but it's like still you gotta give them.
I think maybe a combination of between what Obama and Trump did, and obviously there's only so much time that the president has, so I think it is kind of one or the other. I can't even begin to fathom what a president's schedule looks like. So I would imagine that. I mean, I don't know what I would do if I was president in that situation. I think like a public address would make sense, but I think comparing a mass shooting to like 9/11 is kind of a bad argument, because 9/11 there were so many victims, and it was a national thing, and I'd hate to downplay a mass shooting because it's obviously a big deal. But one of the points I get into, I mean, the definition of a mass shooting is 4 people. At least, and I mean that could look like a mugging realistically. If Batman had a brother or sister, that would have been considered a mass shooting.
Yeah.
in the famous opening scene where his parents get killed and he's left the orphan. So I mean, legislatively that could be considered a mass shooting. And I don't think that should be considered a mass shooting. I think 4 people. I mean, someone who's really determined with a knife could kill more people than 4 in just a crowded area.
Yeah.
I also think mass shootings are in the media over sensationalized, in my opinion, because did they ever find out what weapon he was using? Was it a handgun? Or
I think it was a rifle.
An assault rifle? Okay. Well, so if he was using I remember they said it was an AR-15, which is like the stereotypical, like, oh my god, it's the worst weapon ever on the planet. And I think, in my opinion, I've had a lot of experience with firearms and stuff like that. If a novice has this weapon, if someone just picks it up and starts shooting, they're probably not going to know what they're doing with it, and they're not going to be able to inflict as much damage as possible, which is good. You don't want trained people committing these heinous acts, but I think the context of a mass shooting would be, I think an attempt at a mass shooting would be more correct. Because I think a mass shooting, when you look at an AR-15 with a standard magazine, it's 30 rounds. And, I mean, I hate to say this, but if people are just sitting on the ground, like you see in the video of the school shooting from that student who was taking the video, like, there were 3 or 4 people just sitting there. And, I mean, I hate to compare people to sitting ducks, but in that situation, unfortunately, they were. And I think 17 people were killed and others were injured. In my opinion, if someone has the resources to get a AR-15 like that and has multiple magazines, like I'm sure he did, I think 17 people, albeit too many, but once you're in this situation, people are going to die. There's nothing you can do about it. I think 17 people, for taking into consideration, the bullet can go through multiple people, it can go through walls, it can hold 30 rounds and reload, even for a novice, under 5 seconds, which is a very long time when you're in a life or death situation like that. I think, albeit the families that are directly affected and the people who are directly affected in these situations, I think they feel that these are huge situations, and they are. I would never downplay it for those individuals, but as a nation, 17 people out of hundreds of millions is, I think the news sensationalizes it so much, and I mean, the FBI database shows that acts of violence, even of this caliber, are being reduced. The number of murders nationwide are going down over time. Does that mean we're a less violent society? Maybe, maybe not. Maybe there's other crimes that are being committed in place of that, but I do definitely believe that murder of just in total number of bodies is going down, and statistically that is being proved.
Yeah.
So
what do you think about like schools in general, like having certain drills, or like some type of way to, like, I guess, like if it was to happen, let's just say somebody just got a gun, like, how do you think like schools should like go about like telling students where to go, like the exit routes and stuff? Because a lot of schools really, they don't even have actions and plans, because it can happen anytime. You can be, and because I was thinking about the teacher argument about the teacher having a gun and like taking practicing, and that's good, but at the same time, what if somebody were to say, well, what if the class is getting on the teacher's nerves, and all of a sudden that teacher loses anger? And I know that's kind of
I feel like that's a very
reach, but the possibility still can happen.
Yeah, the possibility is there, but would you make the same argument for a police officer? Or if a police officer is having a bad day and just decides to start shooting people, that chance is still there. I think, and I have a karate background and a jiu-jitsu background, and I've been training for quite a few years under some very prestigious teachers, and I don't know if they want their names said in here, but I have been training with them for a very long time, and they're one of them is very famous, and he has a couple of very high-ranking students who have gone through his programs, and a lot of times the training that police receive in their beginning classes, their what is it called? In their PTI, they usually only get a handful of hours in either the shooting range or hand-to-hand combat or police tactics like that. Like, your average cop is just that. They are average, and for me, personal self-defense is on me first and foremost. And if that looks like calling the police for people, then that's your form of self-defense. I think schools should train teachers to be those first responders if they decide to. But again, the teacher would never say that they're that person. That would be something private that the administration would look at. I think the administration, again, needs to be proactive, not reactive. I think placing trained people, whether they're police officers or not, if somebody starts shooting in a school, you don't have to be a police officer to defend yourself or your students or anybody you care about. You just have the right to self-preservation, and if someone else is trying to take that away from you, I think you have the full capability of either taking that individual's life, if that's the only option, and if you can subdue that person, they have a fair trial like anybody else. So I think training teachers, if they decide to, I would never mandate a police officer or a teacher to have to carry a weapon, because that's not what you're not the protector. But if a teacher does decide, hey, I want to protect my students, physically, but I think as a teacher, you want the best for your students. Yeah. And the best for your students is being alive at the end of the day. So I think that having teachers, if they decide to practice that, would be acceptable. I think the laws would need to be fine-tuned and tweaked a lot, because that would be a big change. And then you run into the problems, okay, well, this is a gun-free zone, but how come there's teachers walking around with guns, and we don't know which teachers have the guns, and that kind of instills a little bit of paranoia in students, but at the same time, I think it's kind of like that, just the culture. If you're not around guns, you're scared of them. If you're around them, it's whatever. Yeah,
exactly. And I was going to say, when I heard about this, I don't know about you, but this type of stuff, it happens so regularly, or it's not even a surprise no more. It's like another incident. And that's the scary part. The fact that it's just when you see it, it's man, happen again.
Yeah, and it is becoming to that point, which is why I think the media the media over sensationalizes it, because people, if you see the same ad on TV, eventually you just change the channel. So if you have to have those blaring warnings and flashy lights and over sensationalization to keep viewers on there, because the longer they're watching, the more money the channel's making. So it makes sense that they over sensationalize it, but at the same time, then I think maybe we have to look at how our news channels are earning their money and maybe changing that.
Yeah, that is true. Because like I said, when it comes to news, when I've done research, and this is still relevant, there's 6 major corporations that run all the news, mainstream news societies, so that plays a big part in, who puts what in, et cetera, so.
Yeah, I think there's a lot to corporate America that also is a driving force between how news is portrayed, and I think that deserves its own video, its own topic of discussion. But what's your opinion on teachers carrying firearms? How would that look? I think we both agree that maybe it could be a thing, but how would that look in your mind?
I think I don't know how to feel about it, because it's like I said, at one point, a teacher having a gun, it sounds great on the surface,
Right, yeah.
And it's just, I think it's because a lot of people can't see a teacher having a gun or is necessary.
Right.
I think that's probably one of the main reasons why people wouldn't want to have a teachers. Me personally, if that teacher was trained and if they had, the right qualifications, I wouldn't mind it, just for the simple fact that I'm not the one carrying the gun. So somebody's got to do it, like I said, some student might be giving a presentation, and let's say the crowd's not, just disrupting them or they're boring him or whatever. Mm-hmm. All of a sudden he reaches to his book bag. And now we're all screwed, but then nobody's there to stop him, Mm-hmm. I was going to say another thing that could possibly happen, maybe have somebody who can guard the classroom, maybe. Something like, I feel like that would probably be better. Somebody that can guard classrooms. Mm-hmm. But I don't know how they would guard it, but just some type of protection.
Yeah, so in my high school we had security guards. Security personnel. They weren't really guards. They just kind of watched the hallways, and they were like paid hall monitors. Like that was their job, in my opinion. They didn't carry any weapons. All they had was walkie-talkies, and they just kind of surveyed. And I mean, I feel like that was a step in the right direction. Like I enjoyed talking with them. I don't necessarily.
But did you go to a big school?
It wasn't huge. I think my graduating class was 300. I think we had about 1,500 students in total, somewhere around there.
That's way big.
Yeah, but I mean, there were schools in my area that were, 3,000 plus. So, like, I was in a fairly decent sized school, and the way my school was laid out, it was horrible for a school shooting. I always look at my surroundings and stuff like that, and it was just one big long hallway and a bunch of other long hallways coming off of it. It looked like like what an F would look like, but with an extra line, so it looked like an extended E coming down. And I was like, well, there were exits at every corner of the building, but from where the shooter could be located to an exit to the building was almost a football field in length.
Yeah.
And I think school design needs to be taken into account for these types of things. Again, very proactive. I'm very proactive in these situations, because once you're in the situation, every little detail matters. I think that even I've seen schools build hallways that are slightly curved so that they only have this little line of fire, so that way if you decide to run, because fight or flight response is a whole other video I can do on. But when you decide to run, even just like a slight 5-degree bend in the hallway is huge, because when you're talking about bullets, it's all straight lines, at least horizontally or vertically, but horizontally, because they can't go around. But I mean, bullets they raise and lower in the air, but that's everything is pretty much at the same height at that point when you're trying to shoot at people. But
I was gonna say in my high school, since it was like so small, like every single room had a safe room just in case, and it was like quick access too. So,
that's interesting.
So like to me, I felt safe in high school, but now it's
let me ask you, how were those safe rooms constructed? Was there metal plates in between? Was it just cinder blocks?
It'll be like a classroom, and it'll be like a back door to the classroom and a back door to exit and go to another classroom. So it was like a hidden door, basically. Yeah. So as soon as they came, you just go straight there.
Okay.
So it was like literally, because I remember one of the classrooms, it was like a big desk, and like my desk was right here, and the room was like right there. So all I had to do was just go straight there. And the other classmates that sat right with me, we just go straight there. Okay. And the shooter couldn't get in there, because the door was. So it was like a safe door, and then like the exit door. So really,
that's really cool, because I was actually going to talk about that during the school construction. Like my school, we only had the one door, even though all the rooms faced an exterior. Like you could jump through a window, but like you're going to get cut on the way out jumping through a window. Like if you're on the second, third story, depending on if that's the type of school you're at, like you're breaking a leg or an arm or something, or maybe your neck and dying on the way out. So like that's an issue. But I was like, well, why don't they have just doors to the exterior? Why don't and that brings up another thing. doesn't that also inhibit the school security itself? Because now you have these like 50 different entrances that
it's tough.
right. So like, do you increase the escape rate or do you increase the security rate? Because you can't. If you increase the escape rate, you decrease the security rate. Most of the time, I would argue.
Yeah.
There are certain things people could probably come up with that would increase the escape rate and increase the security rate. But again, you're talking about a lot of money at underfunded schools that probably couldn't afford these types of things. And then you're talking about, okay, well, what do we do about already established schools and all this reconstruction and stuff that schools probably aren't willing to pay because, again, mass shootings like this, or at least in my opinion, attempted at mass shootings, they're more rare. It's easy to be like, oh, well, that won't happen to our school. Like we all think like, oh, I won't get, cancer, or I won't get this health disease or something like that. That's pretty much everyone's mentality on at least a personal level. Oh, that won't happen to me. So
no, I think of it like even when I sleep here, like I lock my door at night just because somebody might wake up crazy and like they might have a gun and we don't know about it. So like I always do my best to personally. I think that's something people should do too. Like just have that mindset, because like I said, and it's hard to sometimes too. Because like I said, we're going to class. We're worried about so much other stuff, homework and tests. Like the last thing, like somebody shooting up, this
right.
So that's like the last, especially if you got a teacher that's born, you just
right. You're just like,
yeah, that's like the last. Maybe that's another thing. Maybe we should just have boring classes so that way nobody even thinks about it.
Right.
Sleep, but escape, increase the escape order. If we, man, there better be some clever escape routes. That's all I'm saying, man. Because I think. Visualizing it, I would want the escape routes increased than the security, just because I guess the shooter wouldn't know them. Because at least the shooter can see who's defending everybody, but the escape routes, they don't know who's going to go where, etc. That's how I visualize it.
Okay. My counterpoint would be, so most of the school shooters that happen are students at the school, and they plan. So I would assume they would know those escape routes because they've been a student at this institution for a while. So do the escape routes then even work? And again, I'm not like making these pointed things, like I'm just talking out loud for both of us because I just thought about it. So so what do you think?
I mean, and then my counterpart would be, what happened if he kills the protectors? Then we're all kind of screwed, So it's kind of like one of those. Which one would you rather type of have in my opinion?
Right.
It's just.
Yeah, I think the escape routes could be planned for easier because those are concrete; those are built into the structures. You can have a physical map and embodiment of that. I think if you had like concealed carry teachers and nobody knew about it, I feel like it would be very hard for any student to know which teacher had the weapon on them. Because, sure, the teacher is tied to a class at a specific time during a specific point in the day, but if you don't know which teacher has it, maybe they're on lunch break, maybe they're on off hours or something like that. And again, the students wouldn't be necessarily involved in how that protection plan looks. They would be informed about it. They would say, there are teachers with weapons walking around the school. And even as something as simple as making the statement that teachers are carrying weapons around the school now, and maybe not even having teachers that carry weapons around the school, just getting people familiarized with the idea of it might be a first step. And then it's kind of like that. It's kind of like a like colored camouflage. Where it's like, okay, well, we're going to project this really loud noise and colors and, draw this attention. But then it's like, okay, well, you're not really doing it, what is it? The coral snake and it's the two snakes, they're like, what is it, red on yellow will kill a fellow, red on black kill Jack or something like that. I can't remember the exact saying, but there's two snakes that look almost identical, and the only difference you can tell is color pattern. I'll figure it out at some point. But it's kind of like that same thing. Well, we'll announce that we're doing this change, but maybe realistically we don't, and like have that documented somewhere, so that way in the future, like if it ever does come to case, like, oh, I'm scared of students or whatever, and like you have to. You're like, okay, well, in here it says we will make a public statement, but no teachers are still allowed to carry weapons and follow federal laws, stuff like that. And then, people would probably think twice. My point of thinking is always, the greatest deterrent is people with experience. Like, again, I do the karate and stuff, and like I've been hit in the face a couple times, like. I do not want to get into a fight ever because it hurts. It sucks. People who have been around guns don't want to get shot by guns because they know. I think most people just know that they don't want to get shot by guns. But, it's kind of like that thing where even if there's that slight possibility of someone shooting you, and I mean, again, I'm not in the mind of a person who could commit these crimes, they have to know that they're going to be taken into custody and potentially shot. So maybe that's not even a deterring factor for them. I think we're thinking about this from a normal person's mind, and I think that in most of these cases, these people aren't thinking the same way you and I would be. So.
And I was gonna say the worst part about this is like this guy could have been a normal student, like he could have had no problems, and just so literally you at the end of the day we can never know. Like
there is no archetype.
Exactly, like because I think his name was Ted Bundy if I remember correctly. Everybody loved him. Everybody loved him. They didn't have great reviews, wife, kids, everything. Look what happened, You would never know. So it's tough, man. But I think, like I said, those steps which you talk about, the gun, like the protection, I think it just has to be formulated the right way. It can't just be rushed into action. Like you said, we gotta take time, draw out the pros and cons. But I do think that is a proactive approach. So I definitely wouldn't be mad at either more escape routes or more security. So whichever one that administrators think would be more safer.
Okay. Do you have any final lingering thoughts, or move on to another topic, maybe? Or
if you got another topic, I'm fine. But like I said, that school shooting, it was a sad event, and condolences to anybody who has lost somebody, because that can happen to me.
Well, thank you for your time, Lamar. I really appreciate it.
I appreciate it.
Yeah, no problem. Again, to those who lost someone in this unfortunate event, I hope that everything in the future will put itself back together, and for the lost ones that you have unfortunately had to part with, my deepest condolences. Again, I am a pro-gun advocate, but again, these situations do happen, and they're unfortunate, and I'm kind of left speechless because I can't imagine being put into these situations, having to bury your child when you send them off to high school, which you think is a safe environment for your child. And I don't have kids yet. I can't even pretend to imagine what this feels like. So, from myself, I hope moving forward in the future that you are blessed with no more unfortunate events happening like this. So thank you for your time. I've been Josh McConio, and this is
Lamar Hudson.
And we'll see you guys on the next video, and take care.